Hi everyone, it's Christy from Green Eyed Tarot. I'm here today to film episode 10 of Spread It Out Sunday. For those of you who do not know what Spread It Out Sunday is, it is the day that I dive into my tarot deck and oracle deck library, mostly tarot deck library, to find a tarot spread in one of the guidebooks from a deck that I already have in my collection. The idea for this series just came one day when I was going through decks, and I realized how many really good spreads there were included in the guidebooks that came with my decks. So I thought it would be fun to revisit a lot of the decks that I have and pick a spread every Sunday and then pull cards and then interpret it and see what we get. Just see what messages. It's just a fun way to hang out with my cards, really, and play with them, right? It's a fun way to revisit old tarot decks and get to know them again and find these great spreads that are just hidden to me on my shelf, right? There are these great spreads that are available. So that's Spread It Out Sunday. I'm super excited. So for today's Spread It Out Sunday, we're heading back to Westeros. That's right. We're pulling cards from Game of Thrones Tarot. I have had this deck for a very long time. I believe I got it like pretty much the week it came out. So I have the original like first version with the really nice linen cardstock. It's probably the first ever deck that I owned that had linen cardstock. Huge fan of Game of Thrones. Watched the entire series. And we've actually been talking about like revisiting it and going back and watching it again. So we're going to dive into one of the spreads from this amazing Game of Thrones deck. In my opinion, the Game of Thrones Tarot is one of, if not the best sort of pop culture deck ever created. There's been so many that came on the scene since this deck. So we've seen so many, especially from Insight Editions. I don't really have any of those because I'm not a fan of pip decks. I've talked about that. I don't really read with them. And so I've been pretty disappointed with what I've seen in terms of like the Labyrinth Tarot, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, and even the Lord of the Rings. It's just not my thing. I know plenty of people do love them. But in my opinion, this is the best deck based on pop culture, based on books or the TV series. This was created by... it was published by Chronicle Books, but it is officially licensed, so it has HBO's name on it. So it was in partnership with HBO. So, but this deck was so well done. You can tell that the choices that were made really align with much of the themes and the characters' stories that we see in the HBO TV series Game of Thrones, which is obviously based on the books. So this was Chronicle Books, but it's a really nice set and it's an amazing deck. So I'm so excited to be bringing one of the spreads from this deck. So here are the backs. So if you're a Game of Thrones fan, then you know this comes directly from the Iron Throne. Amazing. Again, like I said, linen cardstock. The guidebook in this is, on one hand, I really like it, and on the other hand, I have some problems with it, but this is the guidebook. It's actually a little hardcover guidebook, but the print is so small, so I need reading glasses, which I'm going to grab right now because I definitely will be needing those because there's no way I'm going to be able to read from this guidebook. But, so it is this little hardcover book, and I do love it because it does talk about who's featured in the card and how it's related to the tarot meaning. So I love that about this. Again, really great choices made in terms of which cards and which scenes and characters and things like that from the series and from the book. So today we're going to be doing the I Drink and I Know Things spread, which again, fans of the show, fans not of the show, I Drink and I Know Things is a line from that one of the characters says, very, very popular. You've probably seen it on like t-shirts and things like that, but this is Tyrion Lannister. So this is the spread. It's the I Drink and I know things spread. So it kind of looks like a goblet. So I took out my goblet in honor of Tyrion Lannister and the drink I drink and I know things spread. So it says Tyrion Lannister with his armory of pithy quotations is certainly worth a tarot spread of his own. Here's a single spread for a fun reading in the shape of a goblet, of course. Okay, so this spread has 6 cards. I will just go over what each position and the questions we're looking for. Let me get these reading glasses on because, yeah, old lady eyes. Here we go. So it says, number 1, it might be time for a drink. What's your indulgence? 2, learning. A mind needs books like a sword needs a whetstone. What you've learned so far. 3, the flaws you've accepted that no one can use against you. Weaknesses that are or can become your strengths. 4 is trials. It says by combat. Oppositions and challenges. 5, a Lannister always pays his debts. Did you pay your debts? Money and prosperity. So position 5 could be related to money and prosperity. And 6 is the future. So that's our 6 cards. And I will go over those again. I'm never going to remember them as usual. I don't ever remember the position. So I will be referring back to the guidebook. And also, too, it'll be nice to use the guidebook to see what the creators say about who's in the cards as well. All right, so we have 6. We're pulling 6 cards from this deck. Like I said, this is, it has, like I said, nice linen. First deck I think I've ever had that has linen cardstock. All right, so let's pull our 6 cards. Number 1, it might be time for a drink. What's your indulgence? Okay. What's your indulgence? Wow, that can be taken in a few different ways. All right, so what's your indulgence is our first card position. And we've got the 8 of Swords. And just so that we can see a little closer, the 8 of Swords. Looks like Brienne of Tarth. Interesting. Okay. 8 of Swords. Here we go. Again, like I said, indulgence, that could be interesting depending on what we pull. And we pulled the 8 of Swords. Number 2 is learning. A mind needs books like a sword needs a whetstone. What you've learned so far. All right. So what have we learned so far? Our indulgence is the 8 of Swords. Probably not much. Oof. Wow, we're just coming out swinging with these swords cards. Hooray. Perfect. We're not afraid of the swords, remember? Nope. Learning. That was number 2. Number 3, the flaws you've accepted that no one can use against you. Weaknesses that are can become your strengths. So 3, the flaws you've accepted. Weaknesses that are or can become your strengths. So weaknesses that can become our strengths. Let's see what we pull out for this one. Oh, strength. Weaknesses that can become your strengths. Perfect. And look, it's Brienne of Tarth again. So obviously we need to focus on this amazing character. One of my favorites from the series, by the way. 4 is trials by combat, oppositions and challenges. Okay. So what are some of our oppositions and challenges? All right, number 4, let's see what we come up with. The 4 of Cups. 4, 4. Position 4, we get a 4. So that's interesting. Okay. 5, a Lannister always pays his debts. Did you pay your debts? Money and prosperity. Did you pay your debts? It's going to be really interesting. I'm going to need all my brain power for this one. Ace of Swords. My goodness, with the swords. We're getting lots of swords, aren't we? All right. Final card, the future. Pretty straightforward. 6th card is the future. So let's see what we pull here. The 5 of Cups. So we got the 4 of Cups, the 5 of Cups. The Ace, we got Swords and Cups. All right, so we have swords, lots of cups. All right, so this is our I drink and I know things spread, which is supposed to be, I'm trying to fit it in, obviously, the frame. It's supposed to be in the shape of a goblet. If we do this in the center here, that's kind of cool. We can visualize our goblet for I drink and I know things. Okay, so here it is. The I drink and I know things spread from the Game of Thrones tarot. All right, let's go back to position 1. It might be time for a drink. What's your indulgence? Okay, and we pulled the 8 of Swords. And like I said, I'm pretty sure that's Brienne of Tarth. What's your indulgence? So I wouldn't say indulgence. For the 8 of Swords, right? If we think about the 8 of Swords, we think about overthinking, right? We think about being like trapped by your own thoughts, right? So is that our indulgence? Maybe like our indulgence is living within our mind, right? Like that's our indulgence. Almost like a way to protect ourselves would be like living within the realm of the mind here, and that's sort of 8 of Swords overthinking energy. Like, so that could be what our indulgence is like not living in reality or staying within our own head. Our indulgence is playing the victim, maybe, almost like I'm a victim, but you're self-imposed, right? You're in a self-imposed prison. So instead of kind of like seeing your way through the situation, you're just sort of living in your head. You're living in this prison that you've made. So your indulgence, or maybe overindulgence, is that you're playing the victim, you're overthinking, you're trapped by your own thoughts. Like, this is where you live. This is our indulgence here, is this 8 of Swords. Okay, so 2 was learning. A mind needs books like a sword needs a whetstone. So I love that we got a swords card for this. It's like amazing. What you've learned so far. So what do we learn from the 3 of Swords? So it's obviously not the most positive, right? We're not looking at the most positive card here. A very traditional 3 of Swords. So what have we learned so far? Maybe that pain and suffering and sorrow are we by seeing our way through those feelings, by moving through those emotions, by feeling them, like letting them in, we learn, right? That's the learning. Like that, almost like it can be like an awakening, like a revelation, like as you're going through it, you don't always see the lessons, right? But that there's lessons within that. Or the things that you learn are painful truths, maybe, and it's painful truths about yourself. Could be about other people, could be about betrayal, right, of someone, a betraying of trust, but maybe it gives you, there's some sort of truth, but it's a painful truth, right? It's not one that's easy to accept. So again, connected to that indulgence, this overindulgence of this overthinking, like victim, playing the victim. And then what have I learned? Like, well, this grief and this sorrow and this betraying of trust possibly that has occurred is there's a truth in there, but it's painful. There's a painful truth somewhere. So that's their learning. That's where we're learning in that 3 of Swords. The flaw, number 3 was the flaws you've accepted that no one can use against you. Weaknesses that are or can become your strengths. And we pulled the strength card. Again, Brienne of Tarth. And if we think about her as a character, for anyone who is familiar with the show, if we think about Brienne of Tarth and her character, I feel like she has so many strengths, but she also has weaknesses, and some of them are I feel like she longs to be accepted, right? There's like this acceptance going on with her. Like, I feel like she doesn't really know her place, and she feels like she doesn't know where, right? And like, where to her loyalty, like, where should she put her loyalties? Where should she, like, where does she fit in? And I feel like the strength in her comes from her being like repeatedly beat down, not even just physically, like in physical combat or anything like that, because she's very hard to beat. I feel like her beat downs come in emotional ways in this show. Like she's very strong physically, but really, like, where does the strength lie? Is it in that physical strength all the time? It's really, how do we survive that? I feel like what she's survived is so much more emotional, and personal, right? And like psychological for her. And like the way she's had to prove herself, right? Like to men, especially because she's part of this world where she has all these like really masculine qualities, but she's also really compassionate and has that heart and has that really, she's got both the feminine and masculine. To me, she's like the perfect balance of those things. So I feel like weaknesses and strengths, like our weaknesses are our strengths, is like what I'm getting from this. That like what others may see as weakness are really what gives us the strength, right? Patience, like having that patience with ourselves and with others, and being super resilient, right? Resiliency and like that ability to bounce back from things that happen. So things like in this Three of Swords, like what are we learning through this like grief and pain and sorrow and betrayal? What have we learned through that? And that resilience and how we bounce back and how we've built that up in ourselves. Like that's our strength, patience and courage. And what is true courage, right? And like, so I feel like our weaknesses are our strengths. That's what I'm feeling from this card. And I feel that so much with her as a character, just as a character. So just making that connection with what was chosen for the card. So that was 3. Number 4 is trials. It says by combat, opposition, and challenges. So we got the 4 of Cups. And the 4 of Cups, to me, trials and challenges, the 4 of Cups is always like an apathetic type of card. I always feel a sense of apathy coming from this card. And this is Sansa in the image. We have Sansa Stark and that creepy man, Littlefinger, I believe. Is that who's in this card? I think that's who's in this card. I'd have to look it up. But creepy, like he got his in the end. That's Littlefinger. And that's Sansa Stark. So the 4 of Cups, like our challenges, our trials, our tribulations, are wrapped up in our, I feel like with Sansa Stark, there's like a real restlessness, and I feel like the maybe hesitation is a challenge as well. It's like that lack of energy, right, and motivation. So that's definitely a challenge and something that you have to overcome. That's something you battle. And after going through any kind of period of being stuck in our thoughts and any kind of period of being betrayed or having this really an awful situation or painful truths coming to light, as well as being this like prison of our own making in our minds, as resilient as you are, the challenge can be that you become apathetic and you have like this no motivation to move forward. So I kind of like this right here, these two right here. So the next card is, I have to go back. The next card is, a Lannister always pays his debt. Did you pay your debts? So here we have the Ace of Swords. Like, to me, this is, I love this. Like, I have no motivation, sort of this lack of energy and like low motivation and just sort of being apathetic. And so in terms of prosperity and moving towards, did you pay your debts? I feel like the Ace of Swords is saying yes. Like, is saying, yes, you've paid your debts. And now it's time to sort of move forward. And there's a certain amount of clarity now, right? The Ace of Swords is giving that burst of swords energy, the burst of intellectual wisdom, like of the mind, right? Realm of the mind. So we're looking at things like clarity. And so this was a challenge, but as we harnessed this strength of ours, this patience and courage and resilience and ability to bounce back, the Ace of Swords is saying, yes, you did pay your debts. You've paid with this heartbreak and this painful truth. You've paid with being stuck in your head in this prison of your own making, but through this resilience now there's a clarity there. It was like confronting something, right? You had to confront something within yourself, but now there's clarity. So it's now time to move forward with that clarity, right? With this insight, like hindsight, right, is 2020. So like with this insight, now it's like, yes, prosperity ahead. So yes, definitely. So the future. So for the future spot, right, that was number 6. We got the 5 of Cups. And I don't know who's in the 5 of Cups. Let me pull this forward. Let's pull this up a little. The 5 of Cups. I feel like this is, I feel like this is at Winterfell. The 5 of Cups. This is Cersei. Look at her hair. Right? The short hair after her hair is like, that's her. So this is Cersei Lannister. So the 5 of Cups, the future with the 5 of Cups it seems like there's going to be more loss, right? The 5 of Cups is a card of, it's heartbreak in a different way. It's grief. It's sadness. It's definitely different than the 3 of Swords, but so I feel like the message here with this future being the 5 of Cups, it's not this like, it's not the Sun card. It's not like, yep, everything's good. Like we're not like, yep, we're headed to fulfillment. We're headed to like the 10 of Pentacles or like, the 10 of Cups, where there's clarity and insight now. There's also understanding that it's we might not be able to let go of all this old grief, right? That it may still resurface, like all of these past things could be resurfacing in the future, but it's really what have we learned, right? So we had the lessons. What have we learned? What are our strengths, right? What was our challenge? What challenges have we overcome? And where did we prosper? Like what helped us get to that point of clarity? So now how do we apply that to the future? Because future sadness, resurfacing of old things is going to happen, right? Old things come back all the time. Like the past comes back, rears its ugly head, toxic traits, toxic thinking patterns. So I feel like that's where this is, that's how all this connects. The future's not like all rosy. It just because we went through, we've learned something about ourselves. We understand what our strengths are, weaknesses or strengths. We know that we can get out of our own head. We understand what apathy and no motivation and low energy has done, how much of a challenge that has been. We have the insights now. It doesn't mean that the future's like smooth sailing. We still could be in this 5 of Cups energy for a while. It could come back. It could resurface. Could be new. Could be new things, right? There's always, I feel like it's if it's not something, it's something else, right? A lot of times. So that's how I'm seeing this entire reading. This I drank and I know things reading from the Game of Thrones tarot. So I would love to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts on these cards? If you have this deck, like, do you bring it out? I'm loving it. And the reason that this came out, the reason I went and grabbed this deck was because of this new deck that I got, this Women of Westeros Oracle. So I've been like playing with them and pairing them together and using them together for like just obvious reasons, which has been amazing. But it also, it made me go get this deck out, and I like remembered how much I love this deck and connecting the characters and remembering what I know about the characters and like their story arc and just their relationships in the show. Just all of it gives such really great readings because of that additional layer, and the book letting you know like who is in it and like what scene it is from. If you don't remember, you're having trouble like accessing it, and then you're like, oh my gosh, yes, I remember this scene from the series or from the book, and this is exactly the message I was getting. It's adding another layer. So I'm so grateful that I got this deck so that I can pull out this Game of Thrones tarot again, because it's such a great deck. So if you have it, let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts about the reading. What are you getting from it? What kind of energy are you getting here? I could be way off base, or you could be interpreting this completely differently. These are just my interpretations, just off the cuff, as I'm trying to use my intuition and make connections to the cards. So I would love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. If you have not done so already and you've just stumbled across my channel, please consider subscribing, give this video a like, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.